Hi, this is Jeff Zeig coming to you from Anaheim, California, where I'm on a site visit for the December 2017 Evolution of Psychotherapy conference, but I'm bringing you another 5-minute tip for therapists. This is about therapist states. Now, we can think about states for people who are in sports easily, like what is the ideal performing state for a golfer who's putting, or what's the ideal performing state for a basketball player who's shooting a free throw. We know that the difference in physical prowess between one athlete and the other, primarily that's something mental. It's the ability of that person to get into the IPS, the ideal performing state. When I do sports psychology, what I do with athletes is try to determine what is an ideal performing state. I try to help the athlete to be able to accomplish that state that fast. Now, what's the ideal performing state for a therapist? What is the state for the therapist to be in? Because, by the way, the client is in a maladaptive state. The client is in a state where he believes that he doesn't have the capacity to cope adequately. So the therapist gets into a readiness state. Now, readiness state is a preparatory state for being able to spring into action. The readiness state for a therapist can be based in 3 times faith. 1, I have faith that if I had this problem, I could solve it. There's no sense in proceeding if I don't know that I can solve the problem. If I can transport myself into the client's shoes, I can say to myself, yes, if I had this problem, I know that I could cope adequately or that I could do something to change. First, to get into that state. Second of the therapist readiness states is a state of understanding that the client has a resource in his or her own history. The client has a resource, and by virtue of the experiential techniques that I can stimulate into play, I can help the client to be able to access that resource. I need to believe in the strength. I need to have faith in the strength of the client, that somewhere in the client's history, they have a resource to be able to move themselves into a more adaptive state. The third aspect of the readiness state for the therapist is a state of utilization. Utilization is the foundation, it's the platform from which all of Milton Erickson's cases were, where he succeeded at all of his cases. A utilization state is there's something that exists in the totality of the therapeutic situation that can be utilized to help the client to alter their unadaptive state and be able to move into an adaptive state. We can utilize something that exists in the environment. We can utilize something that exists in the client's home. We can utilize something that exists in the relational field, something that exists in the office. So many of Erickson's cases are based in this idea of utilization. For example, in working with one client who had a difficult problem, Erickson started to weave a story, and the story was about taking a walk on a path and going to a house. And gradually the client realized, oh my gosh, Erickson is talking about my path. He's talking about my house. And he would intersperse into that story some of the things that would awaken the representations that would help this man to surmount his problem. Now, in order to do that, Erickson probably sent one of his children to take a photograph of the house so that he could understand how to create a tailored induction that utilized the client's path. So, readiness state, therapist readiness state. Before you launch, then you get into the readiness state, based in 3 times faith. Faith, if I had this problem, I could solve it. Faith that the client has a resource in his history, her history, that can be accessed, and that I can utilize whatever it is that exists in the totality of the patient-therapist situation. Once you get into that state, then, and only then, can you use techniques that you may have at your disposal from cognitive therapy, behavior therapy, gestalt therapy, systemic therapy. Make sure that you're in the readiness state first. This is Jeff Zeig in Anaheim, California, with another 5-minute tip for therapists. Thank you so much.